Hi, I'm Wes Allen from DM Tales, and today I want to share a story from back when I was a player rather than a DM. Let's roll it. Now, when I was a player, my first character was a paladin named Saren Lithos. He was a half-elf, noble-born, and our campaign setup was that we were recruits to the army. Our country was at war with the nameless adversary. And the practice of our town was to have new recruits spend a year as the constabulary for the locale that we were in. My character, being noble-born, was rather snarky and thought that he didn't deserve to be treated as kind of a commoner and wanted to get right out to the war. So that's how I played him from the beginning. We did normal constabulary type things. There was a little bit of a mystery that kept on growing over time. And at third level, I had my opportunity to take my paladin oath. And I chose, given the situation of the campaign setting, the oath of vengeance against the people who were responsible for getting us into this war and keeping it going. This did not have quite the effect that I thought. Over the course of our adventuring, we discovered that our town had created a pact with 4 hags who were benefiting from the war. The pact was about keeping most of the people from town who went to the war safe. Every year, new recruits would be sent out, and every year only one would die. The whole thing with the constabulary was apparently so that the 3 hags that the town had created this bargain with could determine which of the people they were going to take at the end of the year. Needless to say, my paladin, who has taken an oath of vengeance against the people who were responsible for keeping this war going, was not pleased. Now the hags are my sworn enemies, so that began to be really fun to play. A few sessions further in, we discovered that not only were the hags kind of behind this war, but our king was also behind the war. So now in poor Saren's mind, his oath of vengeance was against the people who were responsible for this war, and now that's his own country. And he goes dark really quick. The warlock was really pleased with this, by the way. And so now his oath of vengeance extends, because these are now all his sworn enemies, his own king, the hags, and the people of the town who really have perpetuated this ongoing war. Justice must be done. Saren had a lot of adventures with the other folks. He was getting more and more violent as time went on. But really, the fun part came at the end, because we were on an airship, and we thought we were on our way to confront the last hag and kind of end the immediate threat. We would work our way up from there. And little did we know that the last hag was impersonating our airship pilot, and she revealed herself, and we had what we thought was going to be the final showdown, the final fight. And during this fight, she had created a portal of some sort that kept on growing, and we were trying to finish off the hag before the portal could complete. And unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. And lo and behold, once that hag is killed, the king flies out of the portal. We're high up in the air on an airship that is running without a pilot. And the king is flying an undead bone dragon. And he's swooping around, not attacking. In fact, the king was quite pleased with us, because our taking out the hags had somehow opened up a path for him to attain godhood. And he was trying to convince us on that airship, if you just bow the knee to me, I will give you everything that you want. You will have power, you will have wealth, as I ascend my rightful place as a god. Now, Saren's having nothing to do with this. The king is his sworn enemies, and one of the tenets of the Oath of Vengeance is my regular enemies can give some semblance of mercy, but sworn enemies, no quarter. They are attacked. So Saren is watching as the king is giving the spiel about how everyone will get in power and wealth and be all sorts of strong. And he doesn't know if his party is listening to it or they're just trying to get the king to babble. He does know, however, that the warlock has already shown himself to be rather adept at switching allegiances in order to attain more power. And a bunch of the other people were chaotic neutral, so he didn't have a whole lot of trust that they were going to do the right thing. So there we are in the airship with no pilot. There is an undead dragon with our king on top of it, swooping around trying to get us to join his side. And Saren says, I've had enough. My paladin had an ability that I think I had only used once the entire campaign up until that point. So most people had forgotten about it. It was Abjure Enemy. Literally to denounce the enemy in the name of the god that Saren served that would drop their movement to 0 unless they took damage. I mean, this is epic stuff. And the cool thing about Abjure Enemy is undead creatures had disadvantage on it, like an undead bone dragon who is high up in the sky, flying next to an airship with the big bad evil guy riding it. And I looked around and I went, well, I've had it. I went, I denounce you. And the DM was like, you're really going to do this? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing this. And the bone dragon failed its save and just went pew and plummeted out of the sky. The rest of the party was not pleased. The rogue is going, I was just keeping him talking. And the warlock is claiming that, yeah, I really was just interested in the power. We could get power to take him out from within. The other folks are going, what did you just do? And before we can even come up with a plan of action to figure out what to do with the airship, the undead dragon comes soaring up over our ship and be prepared to unleash a torrent of bones at us. And I was going, but his movement is 0. And the DM kind of smiled and said, until they took damage. The king had stabbed the dragon and woke it up from its frozen stupor. And that was the point where we ended that session. The next time we had to play was to take out the king or die trying, keeping in mind that we had just thought we had done our final battle for the immediate danger, and most of our abilities were completely spent. But oh man, as for all of that adventure, I rolled terribly so much. And to have that moment where my sworn enemy was right in front of Saren, and he's like, I denounce you, and it worked. That was a high point as a player for me. I think next week what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about my first experience running combat for basic fantasy RPG before getting back to some stories of the Monday Murder Hobos. Until then, happy playing, everyone.